great to have you here on the Clark Howard Show. You know, our mission is to serve you with advice and information that empowers you so you make better financial decisions in your life. Today, we're going to talk about two of my absolute favorite places to shop, doing things that are not our friends, Costco and Sam's Club, the changes you need to know that are happening at both clubs. Also, I was talking with someone whose elderly aunt ended up one of the people in Texas with no power following the hurricane for an extended period of time in death-defying temperatures, and ended up having to go live with a friend who had power. And thank goodness that friend was there. The problem of brownouts and blackouts is obviously increasing in the United States. Talk about why it's happening and how you and I can be prepared without spending a fortune. That's the big one. I mean, you can spend a fortune to be prepared, but what are the steps before that? We're going to talk about that. So, Sam's Club has had the greatest benefit for the last few years that, man, it's going to sound a lot like Amazon.com Prime, going to sound like Walmart Plus. It's going to sound like so many of these programs where you pay an annual membership fee and you get free delivery. Now, Sam's years ago went to free delivery for people that would buy the premium membership known as Plus. And I remember when I was talking about it years and years ago when it first launched, I was like, I don't see how this is going to work because it's not core to what Sam's is about. So they're not delivering enough stuff to have what's known as economies of scale that could make it profitable for them to offer delivery. And so, you know, Walmart delivers so much stuff. Amazon obviously delivers so much stuff. Sam's Club's not so much. So Sam's is yanking the benefit. They are not cutting the price of the premium membership, but they're eliminating the no-holds-barred free delivery. And now instead, they're going to a mealy kind of thing that is $50 minimum order, but only certain items qualify for the free delivery, and you don't know till you load your shopping cart whether or not they qualify. Obviously, Sam's could not make money with the free delivery, never made sense, but you get used to it. I mean, I have loved using the Sam's Club free delivery, and a lot of times, you know, things are cheap enough there that I don't hit $50 in my cart. So it'll be things I would have bought that I now don't. Trips I would go to samsclub.com, trips, right, that no longer happen because, well, I just wanted these two items and that's not going to be $50. So, I mean, they were between a rock and a hard place. They launched something that they thought could make work. It didn't work, and now the benefit's being pulled. Costco raised membership fees. So Costco has been $60 for a base membership. I think a little more than half of people do the premium executive, which is twice that, $120. And that price was set back in 2017, and now they have raised those prices cheaper than I thought they would. I was sure they were going 60 to 70 and 120 to 140. So I guess the good news is it's 65 and 130, and there's better news too. The increase goes into effect the third week of August. I think the exact date's August 19th. So you are allowed to renew your Costco membership up to 3 months in advance. So if your membership it renews in September, October, first half of November, you'll be able to renew it at the old rate. One time you'll get the old price for one more year and at least save that $5 on the base membership, $10 on the premium by renewing at that point. And Costco has been much in the gripe fest online because, truth be told, so many Costco members lend their cards to a friend or family member, and now, they make all their money from the membership, not from what they sell. So they're becoming tougher and tougher, and now there are Costco's that you have to scan in at the door, not just show your card. You have to scan in, and then it pops up with a picture of the member, and you better look a lot like your sister, your brother, or like your friend, because otherwise they're turning you away at the door now because they want to sell memberships and know whoever is in the store, whoever the card says is in the store. But it is one of those things where, what, you don't trust me? Well, it's because so many people have been lending their cards to others. So enough about that. I'm not dropping either warehouse club. I think I'm going to go back to the base membership at Sam's Club, though, at my next renewal, because what got me to go plus was the free delivery that is no longer free. You have to pay $8 per delivery now if you are a plus member. So it's +8 is the way I think of the membership now. So I think I'm going to dial back and maybe let my membership expire and wait for one of those specials we post on Clark Deals where you get the first year membership extra cheap and then rejoin at that point.
I like it. All right, we'll go to questions. This one's from Nate in Ohio. He says, "Hi, Clark. I'm eager to set my 9-year-old son up with his first savings account this summer, but our credit union isn't offering a competitive interest rate. What alternatives would you recommend to help him start saving and learning about money management effectively? Are there specific types of accounts or institutions that cater well to young savers, or any creative ways to make the most out of his savings?"
So Nate, gosh, could you tee one up for me better? So I love for parents to take a young child into Fidelity Investments and their first financial account not be at a bank, not be at a credit union, but be at Fidelity, because Fidelity alone has this thought, hey, you know what? If we capture a young mind when they're really young, maybe we get them, lose money on them in early years because they have to service the account, small money, but over the years, we end up capturing their business potentially all through the decades. And so to me, it's the ultimate enlightened self-interest. So you can take your 9-year-old in to a Fidelity office, sit them down, you open a custodial account. For teenagers, they give control on the buying and selling. At your child's age at 9, you'll have to be the one doing it, but you'll do it together. And you can do, through Fidelity, you can put money in the equivalent of money markets and that kind of thing, where it's just like a savings account but earns more. Or you can even start teaching your 9-year-old about investing, because it only takes $1 to open a Fidelity Zero Fund, which are their index funds that have no management fees and no commissions. So every dollar that your 9-year-old puts in goes directly into the stock market. And you can use as an opportunity in the Zero Total Market Fund, whatever they call it, where you can show your son that he now owns pieces of 3,000 or so American companies from that first dollar. That's just what I would do.
All right, this one's from Jim in Wisconsin. What protections from a practical standpoint does any individual have when hiring a financial advisor that even claims to be a fiduciary? There seem to be minimal standards for education, competence, or even any clear standards for wise investing. I bet the percentage of fiduciaries that even recommend index stock investing or low-cost financial firms is relatively low. It seems to me that there's no substitute for just taking a small amount of time to self-educate oneself about investing, index mutual funds, retirement accounts, asset allocation, etc. Most people are willing to work 40 hours per week for 40 years, but are not willing to spend 10 hours educating themselves on how to properly use 3 to 4 mutual funds. Keep up the good work, encouraging people to learn these fairly simple concepts.
So, Jim, this is an interesting thing you've said, because what's been going on with people touting themselves or holding themselves out to be a fiduciary, and they're not acting like one at all, is something that's been a curse for us. How many years, Chris? I mean, I can't even think how long this has been a problem. And so the problem is that their interests are not going to be aligned with yours automatically if they earn commissions from anything. Anybody who pretends to be a fiduciary but has you sign something that they earn commissions, they're not a fiduciary. Period. Impossible. Because their interests and yours are not aligned. You know, a fiduciary legally is bound to do what's in your best interests. And so a legitimate fiduciary will charge you some form of fee, hourly rate, or whatever, for the advice that they provide you. If they ever say something like fee-based, you know you're dead, because that means they pretend to be holding themselves out as a pseudo-fiduciary, but they benefit from selling you junk that pays high commissions. On the thing you said with your frustration about all this, making sure you're really getting somebody who's knowledgeable, well-trained, and does it right, it is more, it takes a lot of work on your part in interviewing them, finding out what their training is, what their philosophies are. And if you're talking with a financial person and they're only talking about what investments they should put you in, instead of finding out what your goals are in life, where you are with those goals, how you're handling debts, what are your intermediate goals, long-term goals, are you, and if you're married, are you and your spouse on the same page with this stuff? I mean, someone who is a real well-trained fiduciary is not talking investments. Anybody can come up with have a computer program they buy or that they develop in-house at a big organization that will help them pick the right portfolio of investments. That's not what you're paying somebody for. And in fact, early in an investing cycle as a person, before you get into things worried about estate planning and long-term implications for taxes and things you want to do for your spouse or don't want to do for your spouse or whatever, that's when a financial planner becomes essential. In the early years, you can set up your own Roth IRA. You don't need somebody to do that. You can set up funding a 401k at a place of work, and most people benefit from doing the Roth version, and build a portfolio that's very simple. So it all does start with you and me. If we do hire somebody, investigating them thoroughly. If we do it on our own, having a clear plan.
I'd make sure they gave me in writing that they're acting as a fiduciary on my behalf as well.
And not one of those mamby-pamby things that says, in these capacities.
Right.
Because that's the other con now. They'll say, in these capacities, I am a fiduciary, and ignoring the fact that they wear a second hat. Mm-hmm. As we learned about like 2 years ago, there were people doing that slimy thing that, yeah, I'm a fiduciary until I sell you something, and then I'm not a fiduciary. Yeah, not good.
Okay, and this one's from Kelly in Georgia. I'm doing a remodel on my kitchen. I need to buy all appliances, refrigerator, stove, microwave, and a dishwasher. I've heard many negative things about several brands. How do I select ones that are decent? We don't want to spend an arm and a leg. We just want a good product. Also, is it worth it to buy an extended warranty on each appliance?
Only if you're trying to protect the commissions of a salesperson and boost the profits of the appliance retailer do you buy the extended warranty. Or what really in the appliance world is a service contract. So there's 2 steps to getting the best appliances and the best deal on them. First is if you don't have access to Consumer Reports, you want it. They do such thorough testing of appliances, and it's a dull category. And so this is one that you don't find people, like when a new cell phone comes out and there's 40,000 different reviews that have been posted by who knows who. Appliances, nobody says, oh, man, this new Whirlpool washer, it's just the greatest thing ever. You should see what it does. No, you leave that to Consumer Reports, and they do that thorough testing. You can't see it free except through the library, or you can buy online access. You may be able to get free online access through a library program, or you can pay, it's not very much a year, whatever. You will learn everything you need to know about picking your appliances. One thing about picking appliances, a lot of times consumers feel that they have to pick a brand and stay consistent through a kitchen, and it seems like everybody does that. There's no reason to. If there's one brand that is rated much higher or is more cost efficient for a refrigerator, you get that. If there's another brand that's really, really great as a dishwasher, you buy that. Stove, the whole thing. Whatever the best one is, wins. And I think you always have Costco as the seller to beat on appliances. Their markup is lower than anybody else's, and they don't nickel and dime you with fees when they do deliver appliances. So I'd figure out which models, makes and models, are the ones that have that right combination of features, quality, reliability, based on Consumer Reports' deep research. And then you shop them at Costco and use the Costco prices as the ones to beat, checking at a local appliance store, checking at the big boxes, Home Depot and Lowe's that sell so many appliances, and you'll get to your answer. But it all starts with Consumer Reports. Coming up ahead, I still remember to this day, when I was a kid, we had an ice storm, and it knocked out power for 17 days in the middle of winter. And we had no school for those weeks, which was awesome. But if it had not been for having a cousin that I could sleep on their sofa with 2 little kids running around and 2 dogs, I don't know where I would have ended up. And blackouts have been something we've had since the invention of electricity. What's different now is the reliability of power is not what it was before. And I want to talk about taking precautions ahead of time that are not as brutally expensive as you might think. So historically, it's been like a barbell, a rich person's game and an everyday person's game with what happens when there's a power outage. In Texas, where this month, it wasn't even last month, started last month with the storm, but the power outage has been an ongoing thing in Texas. At the height, millions of people were without power. 2.7 million addresses, which is many more millions of people. And we have this happen throughout history during storms, whatever kind. And what's different now is we're in a cycle, who knows how long it'll last, of intensified storms and increased frequency of storms. And so this is an ever-present threat to reliability. If you really have a big wallet, you say, okay, last storm, I heard that natural gas generator of my neighbor, I'm going to put in one of those. We had the good fortune of living in a house that we bought that had this giant generator. It couldn't run the whole house, but it, could run air conditioning and heat on one floor and kept the lights on. And I mean, the refrigerator was safe and all that. Those things are big money, and you have to pay for ongoing maintenance twice a year. I mean, it's like a real big dollar thing. And at the other extreme, you got the diesel type generators that will run, portable. They run some things in your house, maybe keep your refrigerator from spoiling, all that. The change that has come in the last 5 years that was prohibitively expensive when it was first introduced in the consumer market and now is becoming so much more affordable are backup battery generators, either batteries that are installed in a garage that can be meaningful money, or portables that, depending on the power of them, how much battery power they have, these things can run your refrigerator, a bunch of your lights, and depending on the size of the generator, can run zoned air conditioning or heat. Zoned means where you have, like, those portable air conditioners that cost like, Aldi sells them cheaper than anybody else, but overall they're like starting at $250 and go up from there, and you can rotate them, roll them from room to room, and then you have to vent them out a window. Those things pull a low enough amperage that a lot of these backup battery generators can run that AC for a decent amount of time. And we have one that we bought that I hate how much we spent for it. It was $1,200 because now you can find them on sale quite a bit cheaper. But it came with solar panels, and so when you're using it, if you have it where the panels can absorb sun, it is regenerating power as it works. And these devices are getting cheaper and cheaper and cheaper as time goes on, and they get better. And so you don't want to be in a position like people have been in Texas, where every generator states around gone, and the prices went way up after the storm. Know that the problems with power outages continue. And we're also going to have more reliability issues you hear AI, and data centers and all that. The amount of power that they grab, and of course the Bitcoin manufacturing, these things pull enormous amounts of power. And they're straining power systems around the country. And the power mix is changing so much. Do you know what our absolute largest source of power for homes, businesses, and industry is in the United States? Far and away now, thank goodness, we have unbelievable supplies of natural gas. We are the Saudi Arabia of natural gas. And so natural gas has been very, very reliable as a source of power, will continue to be, and other things come into the mix. I know right now, somehow in the political sphere, wind and solar have become political footballs. I don't get it. But they are growing in the amount of power they provide as well. And in utility facilities, utility scale facilities, batteries are being used, these big industrial batteries, to store power when there's more power being generated than is needed right then. And then later, like when the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining, the battery power is used. So we're getting better and better at sourcing power from the source to come to our homes. But the reliability of the grid, and think about in Texas, if you've seen any of the video of all the power lines that came down that are big ones that take a long time to replace, we have to remember we can't just rely on somebody else. We also have to rely on ourselves. And we have to be prepared as best we can afford it. And, on Clark deals, I have asked the team, when there are good deals on these battery backup generators of various sizes, that we post those on our Clark deals. And if you are a subscriber to Clark deals, you've seen those post, because this could be, particularly for an elderly person, this could be the difference between life and death. The good thing with the battery ones versus the diesel, there's no carbon monoxide risk at all. They're generally lighter than one of the diesel generators. And you just plug in. It's like if you ever saw the movie Apollo 13, when they were trying to use up all the amps they had and bring the wounded ship back to Earth. That's kind of what you do with one of these battery ones. Based on the power it has, you plug in what's the most important thing, the second most important thing, third most important thing. And my list really is, for an elderly person, medical equipment, refrigerator, lights, and then heating or cooling.
All right, we'll go to some questions. Corrine in Florida has a related question. Is it a good idea to have an AC company give a free checkup when there are no issues with the system?
Christa, you're killing me. You're killing me. Corrine, I have always done this, that I do the spring and the fall check. As you go from cooling season to heating season, always done it. And it's not much money. I think it's worth it. There are people who say that I'm an idiot, but the other thing that you got to be aware of, there's a lot of what are known as roll-ups of really reliable, trustworthy, local, small, family-owned heating and air conditioning contractors. And these big entities from Wall Street are roll-ups are where they may leave that local name there, but they buy it up, and they buy up a bunch of these, and you don't realize as a customer that your old reliable provider is owned by some Wall Street clown, and the heating and air conditioning techs, and a lot of these are under a lot of pressure to run up a bill on you. And if you suddenly go from where they come in and they just do the checkup and they say, yeah, everything's fine, we change the filters, whatever, and then the next thing you see is they're saying, oh, well, you need this and this. It would be great if you did this and this and this and this. And usually they're under pressure, and also much of their pay in these new private equity ownerships is tied to how much junk they sell you don't need. If you start hearing stuff like that, just in casual conversation, say, hey, who owns the company now? I mean, you want to kind of probe, because you may find that it's not the trustworthy people you used to do business with.
I also recommend ordering your filters or buying them. I ordered mine online because I found the cheapest price for a 4-pack. My systems take 2 different types of filters, so I have plenty in supply that were very cheap.
And do you change them yourself?
No, I do the twice a year thing, so I have them change them, but I don't want to pay the markup for the filters. Okay, but it's very easy to change them. Jason in Texas says, I recently purchased a Kia EV6 and I'm looking to install a charger in my house. I was given an EV Go charger when I bought the car. Since it used a 240, I don't know if I'm saying that right, 240 volt plug.
110, 220. I think it's 220.
Okay.
Maybe 240, whatever.
It says that a 240 volt
Yeah.
plug, I thought the cost of installing a line in the garage would be fairly cheap. However, the electrician quoted me over $2,000 because I was told I needed a breaker attached to the line. What do I need to know about installing a high voltage plug for a charger, and are there any recommended practices?
So the prices for this, Jason, are all over the place. And it's a really good idea to get quotes from more than one electrician. And you're going to hear differences of opinion. There are also people different levels of training. You could have somebody who is being unduly cautious. I don't know the age of your house, Jason. It could have older wiring that is making the electrician recommend this, but getting additional quotes would be valuable. The other thing with an EV charger, if your dryer is anywhere near your garage, that's your best place to get a connection for very little money. I've spent anywhere over the years from $200 in a home having an electric vehicle charger installed to thousands of dollars in a very complicated situation in a high-rise garage in a condominium that we own. And so it's all over the waterfront. And also, again, big differences who you talk to. But the dryer, if it's anywhere near, is the best, lowest cost way to do it. You have a little toggle when you're not drying clothes. You flip the toggle. It sends the power to charging the EV6. And by the way, people love EV6s. I hope you love yours.
Chris in Pennsylvania says, I'm fed up with inflation in the food sector. Many items are 100% more expensive than just 2 years ago. I think the only way to bring them down is to anything close to acceptable levels would be to have an organized boycott, either in specific food areas or perhaps entire grocery chains. When I mentioned to my wife that I wish I had the bandwidth to create a consumer advocacy group to start a real consumer revolt, she said, why don't you look online to see if such a hero already exists and support their efforts? She often thinks of opportunities I may miss. Unfortunately, I found none. There are plenty of groups that assist in couponing or helping you get the lowest price within the system, but I found none that are advocating and organizing to actually fight back. Then I remembered Clark Howard. I was hopeful. If there's anyone out there that would be considering something similar to organize and fight back, it would be you. So do you, or do you know of a group that may be starting a grassroots consumer group with this agenda and goal in mind?
So Chris, it's happening. American by American, European by European, from what I've been reading. What's happening is people are completely changing how they shop for groceries. One of the big consumer products companies announced just yesterday that they are laying off, well, it wouldn't have been yesterday, I read it yesterday, they're laying off 1/3 of their corporate staff because consumers have gone on strike against high-cost brand name packaged goods in the supermarket. And so it is up to you and me to change how we shop. And people are doing it, all over. And they're all whining. All the consumer products manufacturers are whining that sell not just in grocery stores, but also in discount stores, that people are saying, no, I'm not buying your crazy expensive thing. You can see it in the stats of how much people have taken up store brands or private label instead of buying brand names. This is directly impacting Gillette, Procter & Gamble. You mention any high-end brand name in a supermarket, they are taking it on the chin because you and I suffered knockout punches for 2 years on grocery prices. So grocery prices, I know it doesn't feel like it. Do you know grocery prices are down over the last year? But it's from a much higher level than where they were before because collective action, independently done individually, has made a difference. Like a strike against buying, a boycott, works in the short term, does not work in the long term. I love the sentiment. And the key thing, when you don't like the way things are going, you create action. You talk about it, and it does make a difference. And I want to thank you so much for joining us on today's podcast. Remember what we're about. We're about you and your wallet, learning ways to save more, spend less, and don't let anyone ever rip you off.